Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Monday morning, beautiful Monday morning, the 23rd of November. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, this week. So hopefully you're going to be enjoying some family time if you're allowed to get out. But we've got a very special guest today from none other than Mr. Ben Miller. I'm going to bring Ben on real quick. Ben, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Gary? How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Amazing. Always amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. So we kind of go way back from back in the 90s, man.
Like, oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been a few years.
Kind of hard to believe, like back in the 90s.
Yeah. The class reunions go from 10 to 15 to 20. You're like, oh, wow. I'm
there. I was talking about like the 90s the other day, and my son, he's 9 years old, and he's like, Dad, that's old. I'm like, I'm like, it's not that old.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
Yeah. So I remember like thinking back, like, when I was like in high school, like even like 40 was like the old man, you know, like, and here I'm there, you know.
Like I'm where I remember my dad raising me up. Like I'm his age now, and that's blowing my mind when I all the gray hairs and everything. I'm like,
hey, what are you saying? You pointing this out?
Hey man, I'm right there with you. It's short. That's why I got to keep it short. You can't see it.
I need to get mine cut. Yeah. So, but hey, you've done some amazing things, man. You've been a pilot. You're serving the Air Force and the Army and so forth. Tell us about how you got in. Like, what made you get into being a pilot and stuff? Like, how did that become about?
Yeah, so the pilot thing is something. It was like the dream from being a little kid. Always wanted to do the pilot thing. So I was in the military. I got in enlisted right after I got out of high school. Went in and I started working on a surveillance plane, the J-Stars. It's an E-8C, big Boeing S-707. I worked in the back for 8 years, and I was watching dots and finding bad guys and doing all that kind of stuff. And I still had the dream. I wanted to go fly, but I just didn't have my degree. So as I was deploying and doing things, I went and got my degree and then picked up on the pilot side of things when I joined the Guard. So I switched over to the Georgia National Guard, and they picked me up to do the pilot training program. So that was about 10 years in. So it was right at the midway point of my career. And then I went off to pilot training, did that fun 13-month course of getting beat up every day and yelled at, and very intense course, but it was amazing. And then I got back here and been flying the big heavy plane since. And it's been amazing. Been around the world, seen a lot of cool things, and just you get to fulfill a dream. And it's, you know, from something when you were just a little kid and you get to actually finally be there and be in the seat and doing the thing. It's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. So now I was kind of, you know, I was teasing you earlier, and I think made some pose like you're being like a fighter pilot and so forth. And he's like, no, you can't talk about that because I'll be made fun of. All my buddies will get on me.
Yeah.
So so you're flying this plane. And so you know, obviously as civilians, we think of like military shows and movies, right? So some of it might have some truth to it, but then there's a lot that really has nothing to do with it, right? So what exactly, so you're surveilling and so forth. So you're flying pretty high up, I'm assuming, and you got these radars and you're trying to find bad guys, but like, what's the process of some? I mean, if I'm asking too, you know, I don't want to get
too far down. I'll have to kill you. So
yeah. I moved.
Yeah, there's a lot of, man. That was one thing that the military and just being a pilot taught me. You know, you go in and like even when you walk into a cockpit, there are hundreds of breakers and switches. And if you've ever been in a cockpit, there's thousands of things up there. And the first time you step in, you're like, holy moly, how am I going to figure out all this stuff?
Yeah, I remember being a kid and like, you know, flying. I flew one time when I was 8 years old, and I flew by myself. And the pilot, you know, the stewardess, they bring me up and they set me in the pilot seat. And like, there's just like buttons everywhere. Like, you know, how in the world do you even know what they even mean?
Yeah,
it's not like one or two buttons. Yeah. It's not like your car. You know, like there's thousands of them.
Yeah, so it's a lot, and it is. And I mean, that's why you have to go through all that training and kind of get beat up pretty hard, because you have to break everything down into systems. And this ties right into the finance stuff. Is you know this thing does this, so you have this little group of stuff and this stuff, and you have to take it instead of looking at the overall, all these 8,000 different things that do something. Each switch does something. You kind of break it down into areas of, hey, I know I need this to go do this.
Okay.
So it takes time, and it's just experience at that point. But it was amazing to go from seeing that thing and being completely like just scared, like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, I'm never gonna be able to figure this out. To when you're in there and you finally figure it out, you're like, oh no, this is easy. Get that, and
yeah, it's like second nature now for you. You're just like clicking buttons and you not even looking probably.
Yep, following the checklist, and that's one thing military does well is they break it down. Step 1, 2, 3. It's very easy. So knuckleheads like me can actually go do cool stuff like flying airplanes.
Knuckleheads. So I've been around training like real estate investors and business owners for probably 4 or 5 years now. And one thing I've always noticed that anytime we have a pilot come into our training program, one of the big things that when we start talking about our checklist and stuff that we're giving them, the pilots were always the first people that would stand up and like run to the back of the room and like buy like a whole system with just for the checklist.
Yeah.
So how important is that, like running your life, and obviously it's very important when it comes to flying a plane, right? But like, tell us how that kind of I guess plays into becoming like financial freedom, free from.
Yeah. So it's kind of exactly what I was talking about. Just like with the airplane, when you walk in there, there's all this stuff. Your finances, you're gonna have all sorts of stuff. You're gonna have credit card things. You need to do this. You need to be planning for retirement. Guess what? You got kids that you want to send to school, so you got to be doing that. But you need new tires on a car. There's 8,000 things going on financially in your life, just like that. But as far as the coaching and stuff, it's breaking that down to go, okay, let's prioritize things. Let's figure out what we need to do. And let's figure out how we get there to be able to do all those things. So very much the systems you have is analyzing your situation, seeing where you're at, and then breaking that down to actionable steps. And that's the checklist version of it is, step 1 to step 2 to step 3 of, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to get on, and this is the next part of it.
Yeah. Now, before you take off, like on the runway, is there a checklist that you have to go through, like before you even are able to even fire up the engine type of scenario?
Yeah, we'll be through five checklists by the time we get to there, and then
5 checklists.
Yeah, so there'll be one right after you get out. So, and it's constantly changing too. The big thing, like you take off, something happens, engine catches on fire, something like that. You have a checklist for that. So you have emergency checklist and regular checklist. So you're always ready for the next one, the next thing that happens. And then sometimes you get that emergency. And just like finances, sometimes you get that, guess what? The engine on your car just blew up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now what do I do? So you got to follow that separate thing. Okay. Now pause this, do this. And
so on these checklists, I mean, you're just talking like I'm sure you probably got like a couple thousand that you probably actually go through, but like on these 5 main ones that like before you take off, what's on this checklist? Like if you can share a little bit.
So, it's everything from like when you first start off, you got to go check, make sure everything's working. So make sure you're just like you get in your car, make sure your blinkers work. A little more important when you're airplane because you can't just pull over to the side of the road. You kind of make sure all the stuff is definitely functioning.
Yeah.
You go through, test everything, and then you have to get everything going. So you got to start the engines, make sure the electrics work, hydraulics work, make sure everything is functional before you even attempt to take that aircraft into the air. So it's a lot of checking systems and then just getting everything going. And then before you get there, and then in the air, it's a whole new ball game because you're not on the ground anymore. On the ground, it's nice and easy because you can be slow, you can be meticulous and go through things. Once you get there, it's a little more stake in the game.
Yeah. Now you're not the only one the pilot's not the only one that has a checklist. I mean, you got ground crew and so forth that have, I'm assuming, checklist as well, right?
Yep. Everyone's running a checklist. So that's how the military kind of mitigates. They've went through and broken enough things and enough people have been hurt that they build checklists to mitigate all those risks. So you try to make it as small as possible that someone's going to get hurt or something's going to get broke because you don't want that to happen. The military can't. Those planes have to go do missions. They have to go do things, and so do the people. Without the people, the planes can't do the thing. So that's the main reason for it is to mitigate the risk out there to make you as safe as possible and keep the equipment in good health. Yeah.
Now, so one of the things I've always not really been intrigued by, but the military friends that I have, the like for in the midst of an emergency, so like to not panic, right? And so we can put this in real life, and like you mentioned earlier, like your car engine blows up and you don't have any money, right? Like how do you not panic? And so like I could give the example. I've had tires fly off going down the highway, right? I didn't panic and I didn't wreck. But like when you're in the air and you have an engine catch fire, like how do you not panic on something like that?
So that's 100% training. You go through these things and we practice these things and we go to simulators and literally you'll go to the simulator and set stuff on fire and make it just the worst day ever. Everything's your wings falling off and you got to figure out how to do it. So we do these things over and over. So it's repetition, but we get taught these things through our teachers. Like the guys over there that are experts, they teach us and we go through our instructors, and the guys that have been flying the plane for 20 years are telling you, hey, here's what you need to do. And if this happens, this. So you start building confidence in being able to do these things because you have kind of outside teachers giving you, hey, this is how you do it. And then once you figure it out and do it a couple of times in the sim, it's not as scary. And then when you're real life in the jet and you catch a motor on fire or something, you dump all your hydraulic fluid out or something else happens, it's an emergency. It's not really an emergency to you because you're like, oh, okay, I just need to do these steps and be able to get back safe.
Yeah. Now you got to tell me you've never had a wing or anything fall off when you're plane, have you? I know your wife's listening. So.
Yeah, never had a wing fall off. Have had engines. Never one fully on fire, but one we've had to shut down. Got too hot. Many different things. If it's happened, but like I said, once you've gone through and you have a little bit of experience, and then you go through, it's not an emergency because you kind of know exactly what to do. It's just take that next step, and then okay. Yeah. The biggest thing is making sure it gets on the ground safe so everyone gets home to their families.
Yeah. So one of the things, I actually run this little experiment or a little thing I do on coaching students. And so to kind of prepare them. And so when they go into like the real estate world and they're talking to people, I basically say, you are now a salesperson. And I'm like, congratulations. And a lot of people they stand back like, oh, I don't want to be that shady salesperson, right? But yeah. And so, but one of the things that I tell my salespeople, coaches, students, whatever, that people are going to tell you no, right? And not to panic on it, not to overreact and so forth. And I'm like, I have them look at each other, scream no at each other 5 times because it takes 5 no's, right? But in a sense, I'm preparing them to be able to take a rejection and not freak out. Cause I did it, but someone getting into the real estate investment world or getting into the financial freedom, with you, with coaching, right? They're going to be told no, they're going to be told certain scenarios, and where you've had that experience, I've had that experience. What are some of the things that you're telling some of your new students and stuff to prepare them for that?
Yeah, and so that's a lot of what the coaching I've been doing is taking people. So just like we're talking about, your motor blows up or whatever. It's not that specific situation. It's being able to analyze. Okay, here's where we're at. Here's where we're trying to get to. Now we got this wrench in the whole program. So trying to teach them tools. Teach them time, value, money things. What's opportunity cost going to cost you to take care of this, or evaluating. Your engine blows up. Okay, does it make sense to fix it, or does it make sense to take that car to the junkyard and go buy a new car for cash? So it's giving you the tools to evaluate the things is a big thing with the financial coaching, is not just telling people, hey, this is what you need to do. Because it's super simple for someone to go, hey, do this, 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 and this. But honestly, that does you no good. You got to teach a man to fish. So teaching them the tools of, all right, does this make sense? Does it make sense to go put this four-wheeler, the $7,000 four-wheeler on a credit card? Yeah, because I want to drive a four-wheeler, but at the same point, now I'm going to pay, $12,000 if I pay minimum payments on this thing. You got to think about the things, because we're tricked and ingrained to go, hey, I need this, I can get it. It's quick, with cell phones and everything else, everything's at the tip of your finger. So we get so ingrained that people just don't think about it. You just go through and you're completely normal going through life, just doing what's good, and that's my wife was blown away. She was like, we see all these people and you're like, man, how do they afford all that stuff? Yeah. I'm like, you can afford it very easily, put it on credit cards. It's just the opportunity. You're going to be paying for that down the road. You're robbing your future self of something. Yeah. So now you and your family are not just, you're coaching it. You're living it. I mean, you recently paid off your own mortgage and everything. I mean, yeah. So we're kind of, you got to walk the walk if you're going to start a business, talking the talk, So we've been doing it for a long time, and that's the thing. It's not an overnight thing. We've been doing this for 13, 14 years now. Yeah. But we're in a very comfortable place. So as I draw to the end of my military career, the coaching business is kind of what I've gone to, and it's when I got there, I was like, what do I want to do when I stop doing this? Because I've done, serve the country, help people out, been around the world doing things. I'm like, what do I want to do? And I love money. I love finances. I love just the concepts of it. And I'm like, man, I want to teach people. I want people to have the same opportunity. Same opportunity that I had to get to where you just do what you have passion for. So
yeah,
that's the coolest thing in the world. I'm very excited about the next chapter and being able to do something you love, man. Just like you can see you're happy. You get a smile on your face when you see you're doing your videos on the real estate stuff. You're smiling. You're like, oh man, check this out. There's trash and all this stuff. And you're like, why is he so happy about that?
Yeah, why are you happy to be in a drug house?
Yeah, exactly. You see the needles of drugs. Like, why is he happy? Like, he's enjoying what he's doing. You can tell it makes him happy to be able to, because he knows on the other side, when I fix this place up, it's going to be beautiful and it's going to make a home for someone.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love the real estate aspect. And what I really enjoy probably the most, and you might maybe agree with this, is I love it when I have a student come to me and say, thank you. Yeah. And, you changed my life per se, where they never thought they could buy their own house or much less buy like an investment property. And so that there keeps me like, tuned in. I mean, it's amazing when somebody does that.
Oh, 100%, man. That just, when you see the light bulb come on and they start functioning on their own, it's just, when they change their way of thinking, just, because it's easy to get into that, well, I'll just never do it,
Yeah.
And not only when they get into their way of changing the thinking, it's like when they start thinking about, oh, I can change my kids' future. Yep. I can change their future. And you see the excitement. To me, that's what gets me pumped up. And they're like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah. So one of the things, Ben, I've been working with, like even on my son, he's 9, and we've been playing the game Cash Flow.
Yeah.
And so like that there, he's been playing like the kids version for about a year now, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he's recently went up to the adult version, and he crushed me in like 4 moves. It was crazy. And so, but like what he's actually wanting to do now is he instead of going out and just getting like say a PlayStation, right? Mm-hmm. He's wanting to go out and mow yards. He's wanting to go out. He's wanting investments now. So he's wanting to get a rental property and stock. He's already asking for stocks. Like that's what he wants for Christmas is stocks. And so, like,
brother.
Yeah, I'm like, instead of, he goes, well, if I buy the stocks, then I'll have the extra money to go out and buy what I want.
Yeah.
So, I've got to thank Robert Kiyosaki for inventing the game because it's working, and he's 9. So,
and that's the thing too, is just watching you as you, if you're not succeeding with money and then you got to bring the kids into that, bring them into the successes, bring them into the paying off the debts. And I've been amazed, just my daughter, she's 14 now, and I've never really gone at her with the finance stuff. I've kind of just, hey, this is what we're doing. When we were paying off the house, we had a little coloring chart on the fridge that every, $5,000 we would color in a little thing. So she was the one. I'd be like, hey, we get to color another square. So
that's awesome.
But she's been doing stuff on my Facebook page, and she'll put the picture and she puts the quotes, and she's writing these quotes, and it creeps me out because it's like, holy moly, that's something I would say. Like, it's just weird, and they pick up, and it's never been like forced on her, but kids just pick up so much stuff from you.
Yep.
They see it, which is awesome because it gets them paying attention to it. Most families talking about money is like either you just don't do it, or it's like one of the like, no, that's a bad topic to cover. Like, no,
I never talked about it growing up. In fact, I didn't. I feel dumb, like getting out of high school and didn't really know what stock market really was, type of deal. I heard of it, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to invest, So
I tell you, man, I got my master's degree based in finance, and what I've learned through that on what I can apply to my life is probably maybe 10% of all that higher education. And they never like high school should be teaching how to balance a checkbook, how to, what investments are at least, so you can look at the stock market, what it takes. That if everyone understood the time value of money and how to use that calculator, like the world would change, because everyone would be like, oh, okay, so if I spend $5 on lunch, that's actually spending, $35. So that doesn't make sense. So I'm just going to pack my lunch.
Yeah, I mean, it is. So now you do a lot of following of like Dave Ramsey, right?
Yeah. So Dave's work on everything started for me. I got to a certain point where my thoughts and kind of the way Dave's process is kind of diverge from each other. Dave is great for getting you started, man. That program is amazing, and it's changed, millions of lives out there. And I got nothing against Dave because he's an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
To me, the getting to the finance, there's a point where Dave's great because he's this big thing and he's got this checklist, the 7 steps, nice and easy. You can follow that super easy. But at some point, you need Dave to come to your house and sit at your kitchen table with you and help you along. Hey, we got college, we got this, we got that. More than just the steps of, hey, this is happening in my life. I got this dad that's sick. I want to prepare for this. And that's not covered because he's preaching to millions of people. You need someone to come
exactly
into your house and go, hey, understand where your situation is and do the personal finance because personal finance is personal. So it's going to change for every person. That's why they're like, well, what's your exact steps? I'm like, I don't have steps because your house is going to be different from his house. It's going to be different from her house. Like there's some general concepts that are going to be for everybody, but
everybody's situation is different too.
100%. And that's why just coming in and seeing stuff. And it's awesome to everything from worst case, I have payday loans on top of this, on top of that. And I'm just, I'm ready to foreclose on my house.
Yeah.
Okay, let's work through this. And then you get the guy that comes in for coaching and, he's like, yeah, man, I got $500,000 sitting in a savings account. What do I do with it? You're like, okay, well, you're all right then. But both sides of it, man, you'll see the light bulb comes on, the change happens, and they get through everything. Some things take longer, some are much shorter, but it's just cool to see that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I went through Dave Ramsey as well. And then, I loved it. I was following his steps and, I think his program's great. I think everybody should technically go through. I think that should actually be like part of like a high school type of, education. Where I kind of differed was more or less like, pay cash for everything. And if you don't got cash, to say buy a $25,000 rental property or something like that so I've got a kind of like a mix, I think there's good debt and bad debt. And I think like your good debt would be to finance like a mortgage on a rental property or an investment property that pays your mortgage off and so forth. But
So that's kind of the whole concept of the other side of personal financial coaching is there's a point where you get to the other side when you got your stuff paid off, you kind of have your emergency fund set up. About step 3 with Dave Ramsey's thing, when you start learning about investing and doing other things in real estate, is kind of where you diverge. You get to the other side. You get to that point where all your money's not going out to bills. You have money now to buy assets.
Yes.
So now it's kind of the rich dad, poor dad. You switch gears at that point and start getting assets together. So,
so my investment philosophy now is I actually raise private funds for private individuals. I pay them a nice interest rate, right? But then I use that money to buy a property, fix it up, and then I sell it. And then I take the cash that I make, and then I usually go out and buy I usually try to pay off a rental property, something of that nature, almost like it's like a mixture of like the Dave Ramsey and so forth. So
that is your personal situation. So yours is different from, a guy that's going to run all cash processes, buy and then buy the next 1K, And you got guys that do heavy leverage and have millions of dollars in leverage out there, and they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Good and bad, each of them, there's what makes you sleep at night. I could not do that, but, some of the things out there. But it's different for everyone. So getting the individualized attention of a coach is that's why it's interesting to me because everyone's a different puzzle. Everyone's a different situation. So
what's your biggest challenge right now as becoming a coach for the financial coach?
So business wise, I think the biggest thing is I want to help too many people. I want to that sounds silly, but I know about 8 out of 10 people are living paycheck to paycheck, and I have all these people out there. I'm like, man, I can help all of you, and then and you're like, you need my help. Come get my help. Like, why are you not listening to me? So, that want to help everyone and you don't get it. You don't get the reciprocal. So trying to figure out that of what's that nerve to touch to get people go like, man, it'd probably be worth my time to go talk to someone because it's just, dude, the finance stuff is so important. It's so important to your future. And money is not the key to things. Money is not going to make you happy. It has nothing to do with your happiness. But at the same point, not having money stress in your life allows you to be a lot nicer to the people you're living with. Like if you have less stress, you're going to deal better with your kids. You're going to deal better with your spouse. You're going to, life's just going to be easier if you don't have that stress. So
Yeah.
that's the best thing is when you see someone that stress gets like the light bulb comes on and they know everything's going to be all right and they're going to get where they need to get to. So
they're still alive. They're okay.
Yes. Yeah. They're like not buried anymore. You know, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And to me, that's one of those things. It's the best feeling. Just like you talked about teaching people. And then when you see that smile come on their face and they're kind of, you know, they're looking at the numbers and then they go, oh, wait, this can happen. Like,
yeah.
Get my job. Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's amazing. Things changing people's lives, man. This money thing can change your life, your kid's life. It's just nobody pays attention to it. You don't get taught in high school. Parents don't teach it most of the time, other than if you have great parents that's teaching you how to do real estate investing and everything else. I saw you had him out there smashing up tiles on one of your videos. I'm like,
I got to make him work somehow. You know,
that's right. If you're going to pay him, you got to make him work. So
that's right.
And that type of stuff, you know, being able to fund your kids' retirement fund when they're working for your company, like, that's life changing. Imagine being an 18-year-old kid and not having to worry about your retirement. Just at that point, you freed your children up to do what God made them to be. You know, like where they're supposed to be in life, they can go chase what makes them happy, not go chase. Okay, I want to be an engineer because they make good money, or a doctor because they make good money. And
they just do what they want. Their dream. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. What are you finding like when students come to you? Mm-hmm. What is some of their biggest challenges that they're facing? The student themselves.
I would say a lot of them just don't know where they stand financially. You know, they've kind of just been living life and they're comfortable because they're making all their payments and they have a little money left over at the end of the month. So they get to go buy Amazon and go do their Amazon shopping and they're fine. They're like, yeah, I think we're good. Like we're not really doing much for retirement, but you know, I feel like we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, here's this, and here's, you know, you're paying minimum on your credit card. You have this credit card paid off in 22 years. So you're going to end up paying your house off before you pay this credit card off if you continue doing that. They're like, wait, what? And then when you start showing them the things of, you know, it's going to be this much, they start realizing, you know, and once they find out where they're at, sometimes, and that's the hard part, when someone's in a tough spot and they just don't realize it, they get scared. And that's the hard part of coaching is seeing someone just like, oh, I never should have talked to you. You're like, no, you should have talked to me. You're getting scared. This means you're going to take action now instead of just going through life and continuing to do this because this is going to haunt you way into your 60s if you don't do something now.
Yep. So, it's better to know now than it is, you know, kicking in the butt.
Yeah, and it just burying your head in the sand is not going to change things, you know. To me, even just taking an hour, find a coach somewhere, say, hey, I'm going to pay you for the hour. Tell me where I stand financially. That is worth its weight in gold. So you can go, okay, I'm doing all right, or hey, this is what I need to work on. And then do it all yourself if you don't want to do a coach. Do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you want to figure it out, then it's an easy way to do it. But just knowing where you stand is probably the biggest challenge most of the people come in. But once you start teaching about time value money, how to create a budget, how to track what they have, you know, once they get those basic things down, then that's the cool part is they get done with the coaching and then they can make all the decisions on their own because they run all this nerd math that I love running. They're like, okay, yeah, this thing works. And they kind of get the tools to do it on their own.
Yeah. What's some of the best tips that you can give to our viewers of starting out on their financial freedom journey? You know? So
the biggest thing is, I think starting out, like square one, you haven't been doing anything, is getting a budget, find out where your money goes. So there's some good resources to do. One I like is you take and print off your last month's statement. So print off the month before if you use a debit card to buy your stuff, or just keep track of everything you do for a month. And then go in there and make 5 categories. Make one of self-improvement, one of family, and then create 3 other that are priorities you think in your mind in your life. And then take 5 different colored highlighters and start highlighting all your purchases to see how much lines up with those. And then have another color, you know, the yellow or whatever, do the other color. And then you can take that and just hold those pages of monthly and you can see how much you're actually investing your money into what's important to you and how much your money is just flying out the window going somewhere that doesn't really matter. You know, the 17th Amazon box that comes in that got you the Snuggie blanket number 3.
Snuggie blanket.
Like that type of stuff. And then just make a budget. If you make a plan, if you don't have a budget, stuff just goes away. And I've lived that way for a long time before I got on the program. And I've been doing it for 12 years and I still make a budget. I make a budget every month. I've Got to figure it out. Trust me. I can look at that budget and tell you almost every number in there. I've been looking at it for so long, but I still do one just because that's telling my money what to do. Even if it's telling it to go blow it and have fun with it, it's telling it what to do. I think people get scared of budgets. They're like, man, if I get on a budget, I'm not going to be able to do anything. Exact opposite. It frees up your money to go, yes, I want to go out to eat. Yes, I want to go to the movie. So I'm going to plan for it. I'm going to do it instead of doing it and not being able to pay this bill,
Okay.
But the budgets and know where your money's going is probably step one. That's a huge thing, is creating that tool and kind of figuring out where your money's going. Because that, for most folks, if you haven't been paying attention, that's going to scare you on how much money is just flying out of your hands.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, man. Like, you got to know where your money is going, what it's doing, and you're pretty much telling it, what to do. So
yeah.
And most people don't realize, they don't know.
And until you start looking at it, you won't. And it's getting that money put to work, getting it to start buying the assets, start saving to buy the assets.
Yeah.
Investing, and the longer you have to invest, the better off it's going to be, because the easier it is.
Yeah.
If you have young kids, get young kids and get them on some sort of program. Get them playing that game. Get them teach them young, because it's so much easier if you start young.
Yeah.
When you start old guys,
Start old guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Start them young. So, well, what else takes place when you're talking to a financial coach? What else do students come to you with, and how can you help? Does that, I know we're kind of expanding again, but what does that look like? So
financial coaches can pretty much handle anything. The cool thing about being financial coaches is everyone I've met in financial coaching, we want to help people. So who do you want to help even more than helping the people? You want to help the people that help the people. Because now if you help another coach, they're helping 20 people. Now you get to help the 20 people you were helping. And so everyone is super friendly. So if someone comes to me with an issue that I don't know enough about, or I'm not experts about, I have a great network that I go, hey, does anyone deal with single moms that are going through foreclosures? And there will be someone out there. The coaches, yes, that is who I work with solely, is single mom. Perfect. I'll put you in touch with this person. Yeah. So it's anything, man. For people that are having financial emergencies, foreclosures, like losing their house, going through divorces, you can really help with anything. Debt, figuring out how to get out of debt, figuring out how to invest. The things a coach can't do is can't tell you what to invest in. So a financial coach is not a fiduciary. Now, some financial coaches carry fiduciary license, but they have to separate those two things. So they can't be talking to you as a coach and give you advice at the same time. That has to be two completely separate, which it seems silly because it's the same person, but that's the way it works. But I mean, debt, car purchases, to me, that's a big one, is just looking at, can I get a new car? Should I get a new car? Hey, we're looking at buying this house. Can we afford this house? Because you can go through calculators out there, but nothing goes into your situation that is actually your life. Everything's pretty generalized out there that you go yeah, you can afford it. Yeah, the bank will load your money on it. You can afford it. That's not true. The bank will load more money.
Not always, yeah.
Look at 2008.
Yep. Yeah. And that's coming. We're coming on another, I see a lot of potential foreclosures coming up right now, being in the real estate.
Yeah, and it is. And if you can't analyze those numbers on your own, get someone to do it for you, but don't trust a bank that's making money off you to tell you what you can and can't afford.
Yeah. And just because you can get financing for it doesn't mean it's the best.
Yeah. Just like a car salesman, well, how much do you want to pay a month?
Yeah.
No, that's not how you figure it out. And stuff like that. You don't learn that till you either learn it the hard way and actually go through and do something like that. And then you're like, crap, I'm still paying on this thing 10 years later, That old Grand Prix is beat up. And
didn't they stop making those in the 90s?
I did, man. I'm stuck in the 90s right now.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, the decisions like that, just especially young kids, man. Get your kids to teach them, because the first time they step on a car lot, it's like blood in the water. They know. Yeah. They know. And the mindset behind what it means is when they ask you, hey, what kind of payment can you afford? What that means is now they're going to put a longer loan, higher interest rate to get you in a more expensive car, which is going to hit you 3 different times. You're going to spend more money than what you planned on.
Yep.
If you go in there and say, no, I'm spending, $10,000 on this car. I have it in cash. This is what I'm buying.
Yep.
So much easier. Saves you so much money, and just the headaches and the paying a car note for 7 years. that type of stuff is just scary to me because that's stuff that ruins you 10, 15 years down the road.
Yeah.
So paying attention to that and not getting stuck in those traps is huge.
That's awesome. I mean, that's some awesome advice. So now you kind of already answered this, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask this. What makes like somebody looking for financial coach, right? What makes a good financial coach, and what should people be looking for when it comes to finding a professional to help them?
Perfect. So financial coaching is like a new and up and coming field. So a lot of times people think is certified financial planners and financial coaches are the same thing. They're not. Coaches are based on habits, teaching you the money foundations, as where a financial planner can actually give you, if they're a fiduciary, can give you investment advice, can do that type of stuff. So a financial coach is more of a concepts, learning, giving you the tools to go through in a financial life more than helping you with your retirement, helping you with end game. And a financial coach isn't trying to sell you anything. They have no product to sell. They have they have information to sell, and that's it. But with that being a new and upcoming field, it is a unregulated field, which is scary. That part of it is. So you have to make sure, get the background. If you find them a coach, as you're out there looking, find out what their background is, find out how long they've been doing it, find out what type of education they have. See, if they went to college, did they go to college to get education on, finances, that type of stuff. There's a ton of programs out there that teach. Dave Ramsey's got one, the Financial Coach Master Training. That's what I went through. Awesome program. You get to listen to Chris Hogan and his deep Chris Hogan voice teach everything, which is amazing. But there's Coaches Connections. There's a bunch of them out there. So make sure they have some sort of certificate because the programs are really, really good. The programs that are out there, but if they just have no certificate and they're going off of Uncle Johnny's advice they got when they were a kid, like there's probably some more things you need to know. And the other thing is get someone you feel comfortable with, somebody you can talk to that you don't get that scuzzy person vibe from, because you'll have that in all. You'll have that in real estate. You'll have that in insurance. You'll have that in investing. If you ever get that vibe that you're just like, I don't know about this guy, get a good feeling in you that you can talk to them and that they're going to have your best interest. And I'll tell you, if you're married and your wife's that gut instinct they have, that thing's real. If they say, I got something, you're like, no, this is the one. And they're like, no, keep walking, because they're right. There's something off about them. They got that woman sense. I don't know what it is, but make sure they have the education, the background, and ask them. Say, hey, can I talk to you 3 or 4 of your previous clients? And if they're like, well, no, I can't really. Yes, they can. They can ask them if they can have someone call them. It's not a big deal. If they seem like they're kind of not wanting you to talk to people that they've worked with, then there's probably a reason for that. So always your background.
Yep. So, well, hey, we're getting kind of to our end of our show time. You've been amazing. I think your wealth of knowledge, Ben. I think you should write a book, man. I really do.
I'll get out the memoirs. Process. I'm working on it because I focus a lot on the military guys. And one thing we don't get taught, just like anyone else, you don't get taught how to succeed with this money stuff. And the military is so great because it's one of the few companies that you get a pension from when you leave out. Your medical stuff's taken care of. There's a lot of benefits to being in the military, but then there's a lot of, the being gone and stuff. There's things you have to sacrifice to be in the military, but you never get taught how to get to the end of that career and be successful with money. So there's a huge knowledge gap out there that I can't sit down with every single one person in the military, but hopefully I can get something out there that I can hand somebody and go, hey, here's a great playbook.
Yep.
Give me a call if you need some help with anything outside of this. So.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea, man. I think you'll excel, and maybe you'll be a New York bestseller.
I don't know about all that, but we'll try at least help you, man. That's all I would do is just help people. And
hey, thank you for your service. I do appreciate you serving, and I know you're getting ready to retire in the next couple of years. So
yes,
it sounds like.
Yeah. So when anyone thanks me for my service, I'm like, man, I'm beyond blessed to be able to do it. Like this has been huge. Like I can't. I always feel weird accepting that, and I know it's gratitude, but I'm like, don't thank me. I get to fly airplanes. I get to do some of the cool stuff in the world.
Yeah, you get to do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, like I love this. Like I appreciate you thanking me for it, but don't make me think like it's a super rough thing. I love this.
Yeah. So, well, hey, we appreciate you being on the show. You've been tremendous. Do you have an email? I didn't even ask you this, but do you have an email that you'd like to give out to people or anything?
Yeah. So for the business, it's Other Side, all one word, PFC, Personal Financial Coaching. So Other Side PFC at gmail.com, or you can go to othersidepfc.com. That's the webpage. And then just look up Other Side Personal Financial Coaching on Facebook. And that's where a lot of my stuff goes to. So you can get on there, join the group, and then you can get a lot of information. I try and give out a lot of free forms, information, planners. We got a good Christmas planner out there right now because that's coming up quicker than our tree's up already. So
it's going to be quick. Yeah.
So
awesome.
You can check out any of those. And,
you can find The Other Side on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
What's the website again?
It's othersidepfc.com.
All right. Awesome. So, hey, thanks again for being on the show. You did a great job. And I look forward to having you on again, man.
Man, appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. I'll be looking forward to it.
All right. Hey, guys, thanks again for tuning in today. And we will see you guys next Monday. Thank you.